We're live. You taking the intro? Am I taking the intro?
I got it. Week 10, by the way, just for the text. I didn't
Oh
realize.
shoot! All right, we haven't. This doesn't count yet, chat. This is a
Sorry.
fake live. We'll go real live in like 30 seconds here. Let me get the right. Interesting. I must not have finalized. I didn't finalize the save.
It's all right. It happens
on the graphic, so it kept with the old week. All right.
Are we still live?
That we're live. We are just shooting it on the fly right now. There we go. It is week 10.
All right. Now we've got rolling in. All right. Week 10 NFL preview is here. And if you're watching after the fact, the first 30 seconds didn't happen. So anyway, hopefully everybody had a great week. It's Friday, week 10, season really heating up. Marcus, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I got to say, I've really enjoyed doing the show with you. I look forward to it every Friday. I hope the viewers have enjoyed it as well. And we have a heck of a week of football to preview here today. A lot of good matchups. But I did ask you in our prep for the show, I just need like 2 minutes to just rant about the Raiders for a second. We were forced to watch them. Well, at least anyone with an Amazon Prime membership was forced to watch them last night. There was no reason for them to lose that game last night. Like that was the definition of this is why bad teams stay bad. They had so many opportunities to win that game. I have no idea why Geno Smith was still in the game in the fourth quarter when he physically, like you can see, he cannot move. All that did is he's limping out there when they're trying to get a field goal drive to tie the game with like 6 minutes left. He's been in and out of the medical tent. Like it's so clear that he is going through it, and he had been sacked 7 times. He could not move later in the game. And look, I get Kenny Pickett isn't really anybody's favorite quarterback at this point, but he's still a capable backup and can move a little bit on a night where you're down to like 3.5 backup offensive linemen. You can't protect anything. You need some mobility to get out of that situation. So number one, that just to me was like old head Pete Carroll, like, no, our starters stay in the game. This is how it's always been. If you can play, you play. And I'm just like, why? Like you needed one play from Kenny Pickett to get out of a sack and scramble for a first down or anything. And Geno clearly was hampered. Like anytime you're in that type of pain, it just, everything gets impacted. So number one, could not believe that late in the game. Number two, 2 targets for Brock Bowers. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And I don't know if he had one in the second half. Like you literally, like I said, you are in a position, you just need a play, one play. You're under constant pressure. Like Brock Bowers is your easy button to attack that type of situation. There wasn't a screen pass to him. There wasn't just throwing a corner route to him. Like just give him an opportunity to make a play. Like he is the guy to make a play for you. I could not believe that. This all compounded to like the inability for them. They kept getting into the like opposite side of the field. It felt like all they really needed was to play good situational football to get, 5 yards, whether it's running on a 3rd and long to set up a 4th and 2 opportunity, but they just couldn't push the right buttons to get any points once they started driving. It was just such a frustrating night. And the last note I have is once Geno's out there, limping out there, the Broncos know like they're just going to run into a brick wall. And it was 4 straight runs for Ashton Jinty. He had a couple of nice runs to move the chains once, but then back-to-back predictable Ashton Jinty runs. The Broncos completely loaded the box because they weren't afraid of Geno, who couldn't move. And they end up in a third and long situation. He gets blitzed and there's nothing they can do about it. So it was just like horrible, horrible coaching night for the Raiders. I wanted to come on here and say I'm officially done with Pete Carroll. This season's been a disaster. For what it's worth, their defense really stepped up. They've defended their run defense in this game was spectacular. So I can't take away some good stuff that the Raiders did on defense last night. And it's not all Pete Carroll. I think Chip Kelly deserves some blame. I think Geno was under a lot of heat, but he's probably, to blame for Brock Bowers not getting some targets in some of those situations too. So it's not all Pete Carroll, but my God, this is why bad teams stay bad. And I just was so frustrated watching the Raiders last night and frustrated for the Broncos. I'm not going to go on a rant about this, but Bo Nix, be better, man. That was hard to watch too.
No, it was one of the games. It felt like a throwback, like 2011 Thursday night game that you watched, like December 15th. Like week 15. It was an ugly game. I go live after every Thursday game, and I was just like, oh boy, this is. I mean, the Broncos started out. It was like 4 3-and-outs. It was ugly. And for Geno, I don't know what point you have to be kind of like taken out of a game. I mean, Kenny was there anyway. It was a bad game, and we all know it. We all watched. But for the first game for the Sunday preview, we have another morning game. It is the second to last morning game of the season. We have Falcons Colts in Germany, in Berlin, more specifically. Colts are favored by 6.5. There's a lot that
while you talk, while you talk, I'm going to crack a window because I'm like sweating and heating up after that rant. So just keep going.
Got you that worked up? Okay. All right. So within this, we have Sauce Gardner making his Colts debut. Obviously, the Colts traded 2 first-round picks plus 2024 second-round pick, Adonai Mitchell, to the Jets in exchange for Sauce Gardner. I'm not going to break down the trade details too much within this just because, I want to keep the speed of the show going. But I really think the Colts need to bounce back here. I mean, this is going to be the biggest thing here is the Colts last week, while technically they lost by, 1 score against the Steelers, that was not a true 1-score game. That was a bad game. That was the first bad game of the year that we've had from Daniel Jones. And one thing that I do think is a little bit of something to pay attention to. I'm not putting it in the concerning bucket yet, but Daniel Jones over the past couple of weeks, his pressure to sack ratio has been horrible. And over the first 7 weeks of the season, it was really good. It was really, he still was cooking in week 8 against the Titans. But we're at a point now where we've had back-to-back weeks where Daniel Jones has been sacked 8 total times. I need to see a bounce back from DJ. DeForest Buckner's on IR, so he's not making the trip, and then obviously he'll be out a couple of more games. That was announced today. So for the Colts, how are they going to play against the Falcons pass rush? Now, the Falcons have obviously been hit or miss throughout the year. Jalen Walker had a really good game last week against New England. Really happy for Jalen Walker. But for the Falcons, you have 3 straight games under 100 rushing yards, 3 straight losses. 3 straight games under 50 rushing yards for Bijan Robinson specifically, and also 3 straight games with no rushing touchdowns for Bijan. Matthew Bergeron is out for Atlanta, and so is Leonard Floyd. Ultimately, I think this is too big of a test, or too much of a matchup here, or too strong of an opponent here for Atlanta to confidently say they're going to go across the pond and win this game. I do think Indy is going to win. I think they have less holes on their team, if you will, than the Falcons do, and that also pertains to the coaching staff. I am frustrated with Falcons fans, with Zach Robinson, with everything that's transpired over the course of the 25 season, and ultimately, I think Indy's going to win. I think it'll be around 24-17, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game. I agree with you. I'm right in line with how you're looking at this. Definitely a test for the Colts defense that I haven't seen enough to say that they're a good defense. I'm excited to see if, how much of Sauce Gardner we see this week, because that would be a really fun matchup against Drake London. I just love anytime you have those big physical corners going up against a big physical wide receiver. So, I do think Atlanta has a chance if we get the better version of their offense and Michael Penix and Bijan and all that. I like what you said about the pressure with Daniel Jones. I think that the Colts offensive line is so good in a one-on-one sense, but Atlanta is one of these D lines that leans into athleticism and tries to kind of outthink you a little bit. Not that the Colts can't handle it, but it reminds me a little bit about like the Eagles offensive line, where it's like, if you're going to beat them, usually it's like blitzes and stunts to get after Jalen Hurts. So I do think it's an interesting matchup. I got to go Colts. One of those like Colts win, Falcons cover type of predictions, I think, which sounds about where you had it as well. Or did you say 24-17?
24-17, 24-20. So I wouldn't touch the spread in this game. I wouldn't touch the spread.
I agree. Yeah, and international games are always, throw an extra factor in there that sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Monty, for the super chats. Very generous, you guys. I'm going to take this next to New England, Tampa Bay. Had to bump this up the pecking order on my notes here because this game's going to be freaking awesome, man. I think these are two kind of like sneaky Super Bowl contenders. Although the Bucs have been less sneaky, Patriots have obviously been getting a lot of coverage in recent weeks, but it's, I think this is a week where these teams can show a lot and go from that cute first half story, the fun team, to like, okay, we got to really take these guys seriously. Tampa Bay is starting to get healthier. Still no Bucky, it looks like, coming off the bye week. Obviously, like Godwin and Evans still trying to get back, but a big one is getting Luke Gedeke back in this one. Hopefully, I just want to see for Tampa to have more of a steady offensive outing. Like, it's been this kind of chaotic environment for Baker Mayfield, and for so much of the season he's made the most of it, but he is a quarterback that can just hit the top of his drop and fire a dig and play on time and keep the offense, on script and all that. So I'd love to see a little bit more of that from Tampa with some better pass protection. Hopefully it's a big jump getting Luke Gedeke back there. And then for New England, like they obviously beat the Bills. That was a huge breakout performance for them and kind of a we are here statement night. But other than that, they really haven't played anybody, not to take away from what they've done. But I think if you want to look at New England as a legit Super Bowl contender, you do want to see it again and see that it wasn't just one night against a great team. And I do think Tampa against this defense, Todd Bowles against young quarterbacks, is always fascinating. I think, New England's offensive line has played pretty well this year. I think it's going to be another big test this week against Tampa. So there's a lot to watch in this one. And the last one too is, if Christian Gonzalez is able to go, I know he's in kind of like a interesting concussion protocol. It was listed different than you normally see it. It was like post-game concussion protocol versus just concussion protocol. So I don't really know what the difference is there. I haven't heard that he's not going to play, but maybe chat can help me out a little bit on that one. But I really hope we do see Christian Gonzalez against Igbuka, because that could be where the Patriots win this game. Is if you have Gonzalez able to really take Igbuka out of this one, Tampa doesn't really have a game-changing playmaker left. So I think I'm going to lean New England in this one. They're really hard to pick against right now. They're humming on both sides of the ball, but another game that I'm not betting, and I'm excited to watch for sure.
What is the spread in this? If I had to guess, I'd say Tampa 3.5. But
I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. You're good
to switch the graphic.
No, it's the biggest thing for me is it boils down Tampa by 2.5. It boils down to Todd Bowles against a young quarterback. And that's this is the biggest thing that I agree with and that I hammer home for the emphasis of this game is the Patriots played really good the night in Buffalo on Sunday night. It was, they went to Stephon Diggs a lot. They were, Drake May had a good game and the defense also played good, but can we consistently do this against, good teams and especially on the road against good teams? And this is obviously going to be one of the biggest tests the Patriots have for the remainder of the year, aside from when they play Buffalo a second time. So really, I think this is going to kind of sound like somewhat loser talk, if you will, but I think if the Patriots keep this within a touchdown, they look good, that this is going to be a win no matter how you slice it, because 7-2 to even be here to begin with is already a huge, colossal win of a season for New England to begin with. I'm tempted to take Tampa Bay, but I don't like betting against this. I don't like betting against Baker Mayfield. I think I'm going to go with the Pats underdog. I think it's going to be a good game. I'm going to go 24-21.
So we're both going Pats.
Yes.
Yeah. See, I think I totally agree with what you're saying if you want to be rational about it with the Patriots, but this is kind of turning into that Commanders irrational season for the Patriots, where it's almost like this has gone so well that you're at a point where you're going into this game. If you're a Patriots fan, we got to win this. We got to get the 1 seed in the AFC. Right. We got to take this division. We can do it. So I get what you're saying, but if you're a Patriots fan, I don't think that's what you want to hear right now. I think it's let's roll. We can beat this Bucs team. And this is the type of team that they're going to have to beat a few times if they really want to be a Super Bowl contender. And I typically am Mr. Pump the brakes on these kind of breakout teams, but it all lines up for this team, and they've got the coaching, they've got the quarterback. So it's a big opportunity for sure. All right, you tell me where you're going next, and I'll actually switch the graphic this time.
We're going Windy City, Giants, Bears. And this is an interesting game for a couple of reasons, because there's the Giants have had a lot of kicking drama. I don't know if you've seen this, but there's been a lot of Graham Gano, Younghoe Koo. Younghoe Koo is the kicker this week. Graham Gano has 3 injuries right now. which is, I mean, it's a lot. It was like one was like a neck injury, there was something else. There was a lot of injuries that Graham Gano had. But this is the third straight year for the Giants.
He hurt his feelings because gamblers have been chirping him too much.
Dude, I mean, anyway, yeah, that was also in the news. But third straight year, the Giants starting out 2-7. The Giants defense has also allowed 33 or more points in 3 straight weeks. It's kind of been all downhill for the Giants since the Eagles Thursday night game / and I kind of put a caveat in here, since the start of the fourth quarter against the Broncos, since Theo Johnson scored that batted ball touchdown. It's just been just downhill. And the biggest thing for the Giants is at this point, obviously I would like to think that Giants fans are, more out on table than they are in at this point. I don't think we're going to win 8 in a row and then run the table. So the rational thing to me is to look for the progression of Jackson Dart. The receivers he's throwing to are obviously not great at this point, and that's going to kind of happen whenever you have Malik Neighbors go down and then even Cam Scatterbo go down. So I just want to see Jackson Dart continuously look good. For the Giants at this point, I'm going to be honest, I don't particularly care about the results of the game just because of, all of the context within the team this year. I just want to see progression from Jackson Dart, and he's looked better than I thought he would, admittedly, through the first couple of games of his career. So really happy to see that. For the Bears, this is, the offense, and last week is going to pump this team's points up a lot, but they're quietly 6th in the NFL right now in points per game. But they've also allowed 72 total points the last 2 weeks. They allowed over 450 yards to Joe Flacco passing last week. That's obviously a major, major concern. James Odunze, Rome's dad, he's been kind of chirping on Twitter. I don't know if you've seen this, but he's been saying some things. But the Bears, the biggest thing here is this is a chance. This is a. You wouldn't be 5-3 with Matt Eberflus or with Matt Nagy. I think we can say that confidently. But now that you have Ben Johnson, now that you have the culture starting to really, take place, really starting to have effect on the team. This is kind of a must-win game in some ways because you can't drop a game like this whenever the NFC North is as tight of a race as it is. Bears are favored by 4.5. I don't know if I'd trust the Bears to cover the 4.5 spread. Just because of how bad the defense is, and Dayo Adengbo, who was not a great free agent signing to begin with, at least in terms of the value, but he tore his Achilles this week. They traded for former first-round pick Joe Tryon-Shoyinka to bring another body in. I'll just leave it at that. But I'm going to go with Chicago to win. I think it'll actually be kind of high scoring. I would say something like 27-24, 28-24, somewhere in there. This should be a pretty entertaining game, all things considered. I think there will be a lot of points scored, but I am going to go with Chicago. I ultimately trust the Bears coaching staff a lot more than I trust the Giants coaching staff, and I ultimately trust the Bears talent with the health of the roster they have offensively over the Giants roster as a whole.
Yeah, I think you got to go Bears. If the Giants can stop the run, which is a big if. The Giants are, I think, one of the worst, if not the worst, run defenses in the league. The Bears their run game's been electric, and they've been good in the area, like the types of runs that I feel like the Giants really struggle with: pin and pull, getting to the sideline, like getting athletes out in space, forcing linebackers to break things down and navigate through traffic, and DBs to tackle. Like that's where the Giants are feel really weak to me. But I will say, if they can bring some energy, I definitely think this pass rush can make Caleb uncomfortable and keep this thing close, as the Giants have played some good teams tough this year. But yeah, the Bears, they got to win this one, dude. Like, I think whatever happens this year, you're going to feel optimistic about the future with Ben Johnson here. But their upcoming schedule: at Vikings, Steelers, at Eagles, at Packers. They get a Browns game in there. But then they got Packers, Niners, Lions to finish the year. Like, if they lose this, they will not make the playoffs. I will say it right now. This has to be a win for the Bears, and it would be very Bears-esque to drop this one, and just end their season before you even get that run of hope there. But I definitely got to go with the Bears. I don't know that the Giants have the firepower to take advantage of this bad secondary on the back end for the Giants either. Or, sorry, I screwed that up. The Giants don't have the firepower to take advantage of the Bears I don't know. Maybe my brain
We
just
know what you
farted,
mean.
but
Yeah.
Anyway, unless Darius Slayton like remembers how to play football again, I just don't see them being able to take advantage of this secondary for the Bears. So yeah, I'll go Chicago, but I don't think it's going to be a huge blowout or anything. I'll go like 23-20, something closer. All right. Next up, what do I have here? Let's go to your team. Big game here.
Baby.
Ravens, Vikings.
Oh, my guy messed up the graphic is not right in terms of the Vikings record.
Oh, the Vikings are 2-7 on the graphic.
That's fine. That's fine.
That must hurt to look at.
No, it's all good.
And anyway,
trust nine. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, the Vikings are 4-4. The Ravens 3-5. This is a huge game for both teams. I think even more so for the Vikings. I think with the Ravens' upcoming schedule, if they drop this, there's probably going to be a lot of panic out there. But I don't think it's necessary. They have a very easy upcoming schedule. So I think the Ravens can actually afford this and still feel pretty good about maybe winning this division at like 10-7. But for the Vikings, things are going well after they beat Detroit last week, but they're 4-4 and they're 10th in the NFC playoff standings.
Shoot.
So that's like, they have a lot of ground still to make up. The NFC is just a gauntlet this year. So it's a huge game for both teams. I think, especially for the Vikings. There's a few matchups I'm really excited to see is, can the Vikings offensive line play well again? I thought they were good enough last week. It wasn't perfect, but good enough for JJ to play well. So I think, are you getting like background noise, by the way, from my mic? Is it like,
no, not at all.
Okay. Cause I cracked that window and now the sprinkler guy is like clearing out our sprinklers for the winter. Cause we don't want our pipes to freeze. So just let me know if there's some noise on the mic. But the Vikings finally had an offensive line this week, and this Ravens pass rush is not what the Lions were able to bring to the table. So I'm excited to see JJ get some more time to operate. It's, while the Vikings are a playoff contender in my mind, it's also a total evaluation season for JJ McCarthy. So I'm just excited to see if he can kind of continue to build on things. I think there was a lot of good and just like some missed throws last week. Frankly, there was the one. What did you think of the interception that got called back? I didn't end up rewatching that, but was it?
I wasn't. The thing was, I wasn't the biggest fan of that being called back and overturned, because there was also a play where Jefferson had his hands underneath of a ball, and it was like where right now I clearly have possession of this, and it was like the ball, like if this touches the ground, I still clearly have possession, but I didn't care. I thought it was kind of like the Lions got one of the better calls, and I didn't care. Like, it was pretty much like, if you're going to call one, I thought you should have called both.
But as far as the decision from JJ on it, the
decision was good. It was just a bad ball.
Was it?
The decision was great. It was like 4 yards underthrown.
Okay. Yeah. Cause that's what it really felt like, was just, there's like 4 or 5 throws that were just, they didn't go where JJ was trying to put him. So, I didn't necessarily think he was an inaccurate quarterback coming out. All right. That one is definitely going to come through on the mic, cause that one's right outside the window, but excited to see, just keep watching JJ. I'm going to let you talk about this for a second while I shut my window.
Shut the window.
That is like blasting water into my office right now.
So, I mean, look, JJ McCarthy last week, 3 total touchdowns, 27-24 win. First time the Vikings won in Detroit in 5 years since JJ McCarthy was in high school. I mean, not playing as good of a pass rush this week against the Ravens. I mean, I'm feeling this to me is a gateway game, because if we win this game, then we'd be 5-4. Then we play Chicago next week at home. That can be 6-4. Then at Packers, at Seattle, if you can split those, you're looking at 7-5. Then Washington, 8-5. At Dallas is winnable. Could be 9-5. This is a gateway game, is all I'm saying. We win this one. I'm not buying back in yet. I bought in big time earlier in the year, and I had to tuck my tail between my legs, but this is a gateway game. I mean, right now I'm going to say the Ravens win, but Sunday 1:00, I'm going to be like, we're going to win Sunday 1:00. But right now I'm going Ravens. I'm going Ravens 27-21, but Sunday 1:00, all bets are off. We're going to be flipped by them.
I'll finish going through my notes before I give the pick because I just had to prevent the water from like blasting into my office there.
I do have a comment. I have to read a comment after you're done here.
All right, sounds good. But another big thing, honestly, the bigger thing for the Vikings last week, like obviously we want to talk about JJ McCarthy. That's the big storyline and all that. The defense woke up. That was the defense we thought was supposed to happen, like be the Vikings defense all year. And it's just been like from the very get-go, it's just been nowhere to be found. Like that it factor that Vikings defense has had for the last 2 years has been nowhere to be found. So I think there's a big reason for that. Like you get Van Ginkel back, Blake Cashman's back in the lineup. Like the run defense was so much better. And then you're able to get into some of those blitz looks on third downs. That's what this thing's all about. But they've been just getting gashed through the run game and they haven't had a chance to be who they want to be. So another big test against this Ravens run game that, I mean, it hasn't been what we've grown accustomed to over the years necessarily, but we know what they're capable of with Henry and Lamar. So can they bring it again defensively? I think if the Vikings are going to win this game, yes, JJ has to play well. The offensive line has to play well. That speaks for itself, but that's not the idea. Isn't the Vikings shouldn't have to win every game 30-23, right? You just need JJ to play good enough. And then the defense to do their thing. You want to be able to win tough games like this, 24-21, that type of deal. There's a history as well of Brian Flores giving Lamar fits. There was that infamous Thursday night game where
2021
they blitzed, they zero blitzed him. Like it was like 60% of plays or something obscene. So there's a history going back there. Flores was in Pittsburgh for a year, right? When they played Lamar a couple of years. So like there's a lot of history there. I'm curious to see what the Vikings can do. And the last note here, this is a fun game for the real football nerds and maybe for like the high school defensive coordinators out there. The NFL is going in this big nickel trend where it's all about taking a safety and basically putting them as your nickel corner. And these are two different systems that will showcase how you can utilize that as a concept working against, the modern offenses that we see, because you want to play a nickel defense. But the problem with that, as we saw for a couple of years, is you're just going to get ran all over. Well, the response to that has been taking Kyle Hamilton, put him in the box. In the case of the Vikings, Josh Metellus has been this perfect hybrid player. So it'll be fun to see, just if you're a real football nerd, just keeping an eye on those two kind of star position defenders. Kyle Hamilton, who's played just 5 snaps as a free safety since they traded for Alohi Gilman. The Ravens, I think, had just 2 snaps of defense against the Dolphins last week where they didn't have all 3 safeties on the field at once. Being the rookie Starks that broke out last week, Alohi Gilman and Kyle Hamilton. And then for the Vikings, they do it a little bit differently because the Ravens, it's more of just your typical 4-2 big nickel. The Vikings run like a 5-1 penny front, and Metellus is in there as a slot corner, weak side backer, all this fun stuff. So just a nitty gritty football nerd, scheme thing to look at there. But I will take the Ravens. I'm going to take the better quarterback in this one to, maybe bring back some of those Vikings defensive struggles. I am worried about the way the Vikings secondary is playing right now. Lamar looks locked in right now. I think I got to lean Ravens, but it's another game that I don't think I'm betting. I think Minnesota has a legit chance in this one.
Okay. All right. We'll be back next Friday when we're 5-4. But anyway,
you mean 3-7?
Yeah. Disregarding that, the comment that I had, there's just no easy way to just attack this. So I'll just, hit it head on. Somebody said that you were farting and that you were blaming it on the sprinklers. That's what the comment said. That was, again, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just saying what was said. But anyway, I'm not here to give an opinion. I'm just relaying the message. Anyway,
that honestly would have been impressive if I was holding it that long.
Bills Dolphins is up, and the over-under for this game is 50 points. I thought that was a lot for this game. That was the first one. I thought this was a clear under. Now, having said that, it'll probably come back next week. It's probably like a 38-28 final, something ridiculous. But I do have a question here, or not. I mean, it's more so like a thinking out loud. But I said, this is one of the things that I put down in my notes. And is this a must win for Buffalo? And I said, I kind of think it is, because when you look at the Bills' schedule coming up, they have next week home against the Bucs, and then at the Texans, and then at the Steelers, and then they still, in the final couple of games of the year, they have to go to New England, and they also play the Eagles. Granted, that game is in Western New York, but I mean, the Patriots schedule, there's been a lot of dialogue about that. We know the Patriots schedule is a lot easier than most. The Patriots right now also have the tiebreaker against the Bills. And with Buffalo, that's kind of why I look at this and think that it's kind of a must win, despite the fact that, we're only in week 10 and they're 6-2. But anyway, the Bills have 68 points over the last 2 weeks. Huge win last week, obviously. And then you also have Patrick Mahomes complete less than 50% of his passes. The defensive line, unfortunately, took a hit this week with Michael Hoyt tearing his Achilles. But for the Bills offense, I continue to keep pace, back-to-back 400-yard games. They have rushed for over 100 yards in every game this year. So keep it up. And I would imagine, based on how I think this game is going to be played, that they will rush for 100 yards again within this game. For the Dolphins, after last week, I liked the politically correctness of this. They mutually parted ways with Chris Greer. Like, I'm sure Chris was like, hey, I'd love to give up my couple of $1 million a year job in South Florida. I'm sure that was like at the top of his list. Anyway, so I love the political correctness of that. But I saw this week and I like it. There's a two-way race in the AFC East right now. Obviously, the Patriots and Bills for the division title, and then the Dolphins and Jets for, honestly, the number 1 overall pick. The Dolphins have 2 20-point losses in the last three games. They obviously beat the Falcons in one of the craziest games of the year, one of the most unexpected games of the year. They also traded away Jalen Phillips. And there was one thing that I did want to specifically bring up within this, because I think it's kind of worth noting, although it is going to have next to zero impact on the game. The Dolphins, they removed their Papa Shot basketball game from the locker room after a 2-7 start. I would argue that was, probably like a month and a half too late, but they, seem to be taking steps or trying to take steps. Look, Bills probably by 17. I think the Bills cover. I think it's going to be something like 30-13, somewhere in there. I don't think the Dolphins are good. Obviously, trading away Jalen Phillips is only going to hurt things. I don't think the weather is going to be, that much of an impact in November, where you can, legitimately bring that up like you can in the first or second week of the year in September. Buffalo should roll.
I was just throwing a little money on Buffalo while you were talking there, because I agree so much. I don't understand why this one wouldn't be a double-digit spread like we've seen some of these games recently. Like, this should absolutely be a boat racing in Miami. I mean, Dolphins fans aren't even like really showing up at this point. There's been a lot of shots in the crowds, and it's like either seats are empty or it's opposing teams fans. I think Bills fans will be there in attendance for this one. Bills feeling excellent coming off that huge win against the Chiefs, and Dolphins shopping players at the deadline. I felt like they quit Thursday night against the Ravens. A long week to kind of sit there and mope. I know that the Dolphins kind of got up against the Bills and made it tight the first time they played, but I don't see that happening again. I think the Bills have really course corrected on a lot of some of their defensive issues that showed up earlier in the year with just run defense, frankly. And that showed up in the Dolphins game. A lot of the Devon Achane stuff was a problem for them. I think they're in a much better spot with what they've shown defensively lately to limit the Dolphins offense, to probably pick off Tua in this game, which feels like a weekly guarantee for your same day part or your same game parlays and all that stuff. Josh Allen and this offense should roll against a defense that now doesn't even have Jalen Phillips. So totally agree. All Bills for me. Okay, let's go to the Panthers hosting the New Orleans Saints. This comes back to what I said about the Panthers when they played the Jets a few weeks ago, where I want to see the Panthers dominate a bad team. Like, it's clear that this team has cleared a hump of like they've gotten out of that cluster of Saints and Dolphins, and the last couple of years they've spent a lot of time as one of the laughing stocks of the NFL. It's quite clear like they've elevated to a team that like you got to take seriously. They took down the Packers last week. That's awesome. I love that.
Good team win.
Yeah. It took me about 3 days to wipe that one from my memory. But yeah, I want to see the Panthers also be, because it's one thing to beat good teams and to scrap out, a team win where you capitalize on a good team making mistakes. And I would argue kind of playing down to your level a little bit on a day like that. It's great. You deserve credit for it. I'm not trying to take that away, but I think the legit playoff teams, the ones that you want to like take seriously and look, like I want to be able to come out of this week and look at the Panthers and say, yeah, in a crazy heated NFC, they're actually a good enough team that they could go win 10, 11 games. Maybe if the Bucs lose this week, like compete in the NFC South. Like I want that to be the narrative on the Panthers. Maybe they're just a year too early on that, but for me, it's like, go kill the Saints, man. Go get it done at home against Tyler Shuck. Like I want to see the Panthers have a convincing win. And I know they beat Atlanta. That was one game. If you want to attach to that and say that's what the Panthers are capable of, that's fine. I disagree. I think for the large part, they're either squeezing out tight wins. Oftentimes it's like they can play the Jets tight, and then they can also play like the Chiefs and Eagles and Packers tight. Like they're this weird team. But I don't have a ton of confidence that the Panthers can come out and like crush a Saints team right now. So that's really what I'm looking for in this game. I think with their ability to run the football, I want to see Bryce have a good game against a Saints pass rush that it's so bad, dude. Like the Rams, Matthew Stafford was just having a cup of tea in the pocket last week, outside of one win from Chase Young, and they got him on a blitz once. But outside of that, pretty much every drop back, Matthew Stafford was just having a cup of tea back there. I want to see Bryce show a little bit more through the air. And it sucks that T-Mac is dealing with a hamstring injury right now. That kind of popped up today. So that could take a little bit of sauce out of this game. But I just, that's what I'm looking for the Panthers. I think they're capable of it. I just want to see them do it. And then this is also a fun opportunity to get a real look at Tyler Shuck, I think, against a Panthers defense that doesn't have this crazy pass rush. I know they played great last week and hopefully they can keep that up. But the first 2 weeks for Tyler Shuck have been kind of tough to take anything from. The first week he comes in down 21 points when they're benching Rattler against a Todd Bowles defense. It's like, he didn't really do anything horrible there, but there wasn't much to see. Last week, did you see the time of possession difference between the Rams and the Saints?
I have a stat.
Was it 45 minutes?
I did. I have a stat for you. If you didn't, it was from Nick Underhill. I didn't know if you saw it, but the Saints' time of possession last week, Nick Underhill said it was like the 13th lowest in NFL history in a game.
Yeah. Like, and part of that is he was playing a little conservative, third down throws short of the sticks. Like it's not that Shuck is free of blame for that. But also like the defense couldn't get off the field. There were these like 16, 17 play drives for the Rams, just milking this clock down. And it's just like through two appearances, I feel like I don't have any new opinions on Tyler Shuck. So I would love to see a closer game from the Saints perspective and see if he can maybe show a little bit of life. I think in the 2-minute drill, he made some throws. He threw a nice deep ball to Olave in the second half as well in that game against the Rams. So that's kind of what I'm interested in for the Saints here, but I'm going to take the Panthers to win, but frankly, I don't have a ton of confidence that they will crush this Saints team, especially with T-Mac maybe being a little more limited this week.
So I have a couple of things to say within this. The Panthers, I mean, they're 5-4. I do have a super chat here from Kyle, and I do have a couple super chats I'll get to whenever we get to the said games. There's one pertaining to the Jags, but Kyle talked about the super chat is about the Panthers. He said they're like a distorted version of the Broncos. They have talent and they can win, but they'll definitely frustrate you doing it. And my biggest thing with the Panthers right now is they have won 2 out of their last 3, but they haven't put up more than 16 points in a game. And I said this last week in the weekly recap that, for me to actually take the Panthers legitimately serious and to think that, hey, we were taking a step. First off, credit last week for winning in Lambeau as near 2 touchdown underdogs. But you have to win this game, and then you have to win next week against Atlanta. Like you need to be 7-4 if you are going to take that next step. Because on top of it, I'm going to be honest, I think at times for whatever reason that Bryce Young kind of gets like a shielded treatment. I don't think he's been particularly great this year at really any point. So it's like, this is a former number 1 pick that we're talking about. And for me to take the Panthers legitimately serious, this is, I hate to keep, like beating whatever, the hammer home, whatever, that this is a must-win game, but you can't lose to the 1-8 Saints. I'm sorry. You cannot drop this game. You have to win this game. And honestly, you have to win next week as well. And I do want to see Bryce Young look better. I mean, he didn't look good last week. And I want it to be more than the Rico Dowdle show. I want to see the Panthers, like just shove it to the Saints. I want to see them put up 25 plus points. I want to see a 27, even if it's 27-24, I just want to see the offense legitimately get going more than just, hey, Rico, carry us to victory.
Yeah.
So that's where I stand on that. And the Panthers have a brutal stretch to end the year, if we're being honest. They have, in a span of games, they have at San Francisco, home against the Rams, a week 14 bye, and then at the Saints, home against the Bucs, home against the Seahawks, at Tampa. That's a tough stretch to play the Bucs twice, and then 3 of the 4 NFC West teams in
Rams
your final.
and Seahawks in there.
Yeah, that's tough. So that's why this game, in a lot of ways, you can't drop this one. I am going to take the Panthers to win, but for me to really say like, hey, they're taking the next step, you got to win this one. I mean, you have to win this one.
Yeah. I'll defend, like, I totally agree. Bryce is not where you would want him to be at this stage. I do think there's been very much a clutch factor to him, not like the cliche version of it. Right. Like, he legit has had a lot of plays this year where it's like when the 3rd and 6th play needs to be made, whether it's beating the blitz with a throw or last week against the Packers, they kept getting pressure on him. And he was actually doing the Alabama thing where he would find a way out of the pocket, and he had some really elusive scrambles. He made the throws he needed to get that game-winning field goal at the end. So they have won a lot of really close games within the last 4 minutes, and that's when Bryce has had his best football. Right. So, like, I do think he deserves a lot of credit for that. But yeah, I agree. Like, there hasn't been any dynamism with this offense either, and that's a lot of Bryce for sure.
All right, we are going to the Jets, baby. Browns, Jets.
Have fun. I was so happy that you volunteered to lead this one off.
This is a game where I think there is actually a lot of things to pay attention to that I'm actually looking forward to parts of this game. But by the way, both teams well rested, both teams coming off a bye. So, you got a lot of hunger in this game for both teams, a lot of let's get after it. Right. So
yeah, surely the Jets will be extremely motivated this week after they shipped off all their players.
Anyway, positively here. For the Browns, I'm more so focusing on I'm not a Dylan Gabriel guy. I'm just being honest. I have feed Quinshon Judkins, especially with Quinn and Williams no longer on the team. I know the Jets they still have a lot of bodies on the defensive line, but Quinnen is out. Try and hammer home the run as much as you can. Mm-hmm. And at this point with the Browns, at this point in the year, just whatever you can, man. Quinshon Judkins is your future running back, or I guess your running back now and in the future, whatever. He's your guy. Harold Fannin is also a really good player. David Njoku, credit to him, man. He said that once he found out he wasn't getting traded, he was so excited to get back to the facility. I know that the Browns, their record is what their record is, but I feel like that says at least something that guys, some of the guys in the building at least legitimately want to be there. Get your playmakers the football. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Feed Quinshon, get your scripted touches. I don't care how it happens. Just get Quinshon, get Harold Fannin the ball, get David Njoku the ball. Jerry Jeudy's been largely a disappointment this year. But within the Jets offense, this is an interesting thing to bring up or interesting thing to discuss, because earlier in the year when we were at like week 5, week 6, maybe even week 7, the Jets' second leading receiver, and I'm talking receiver, so no Mason Taylor, no Breece Hall, actual second receiver, was Tyler Johnson with something like 63 receiving yards in the first 6 weeks of the year. And Tyler Johnson currently has back-to-back 60-yard games. So that's definitely something to at least note within this game. But you just traded Sauce Gardner. Obviously, we're not going to see the first-round picks for some time. But Adonai Mitchell is a player that I think is he is one of I mean, he's in the top 25 percentile of physically gifted receivers that we have in the NFL. And I'm not talking routes. I'm talking straight like physical height, weight, speed. He is one hell of an athlete. Get him the football. Give him scripted touches, because he was obviously behind the three receivers in Indy and Pittman, Josh Downs, and Alec Pierce. Admittedly, I was a huge Adonai Mitchell guy in the pre-draft process, but get him the football, man. I think he's a perfect complement to Garrett Wilson. He's a much bigger receiver than Garrett Wilson. And, whenever we talk about building teams through the draft, we really talk about, building the receiver room and have several different heights and several different shapes and sizes, if you will. Get Adonai Mitchell the football. So for the sake of this game, I'm going to be paying attention to Quinshaw Judkins, Harold Fannin, David Njoku, and ultimately the usage of Adonai Mitchell. And for the actual winner of this game, I mean, the Jets traded two of their best players away. They were already a 1-7 team. Call me crazy. I'm going to take a Dylan Gabriel-led team on the road. But there is a lot to actually pay attention to within this game in terms of where each franchise wants to go for the future of their offenses.
Yeah, I like we said with the Browns too, like with, lean into your playmakers. It feels like David Njoku can go underutilized so often. I would want to reward that guy for his comments this week. They changed play callers this week. That's never a good sign of where things are at with your offensive head coach. I've left a lot to be desired with Stefanski as a play caller over the last few years. So curious to see if that change does anything. I'm curious to see just how bad this Jets defense might look. They've been playing better lately, but I'm seriously worried about what they're going to look like now without Quinnen Williams, who was, Will McDonald's had some moments. Jermaine Johnson feels like he's still trying to get healthy. It's been a Quinnen Williams D line, and then you take Sauce out of the secondary. That's going to push everybody up in the pecking order. I worry about, Azariah Thomas and Brandon Stevens and that crop. No more Michael Carter either. Like, he's gone. Not that he was playing well, but I don't have any strong takes on this one, but they are definitely, a couple maybe new look teams with a new play caller in Cleveland and definitely a new roster with the Jets. I'm with you though. I'm going to take Cleveland. I'm not super high on how the Jets are going to respond this week after the trades. And I'm curious in the Adonai Mitchell stuff, but I don't know that we'll see too much of him this week.
That's fair.
Feel like he's probably and not to pile on him, but he's kind of been a guy that maybe might take some extra time to pick up the playbook. I'll just say that. But let's go to what do I have next?
Are the Jags up? Because I do. While you're figuring out, I'm going to get to a super chat that I told. Okay. I comment back and forth with like the people that are in the chat. So I told there we go. Hunter asked thoughts on the Jacoby Myers trade, and he said why we're on the Raiders, but he's a Jags fan, so I wanted to wait till the Jags were up. I personally love it because the Jags, and I put this in my notes within. I just want to make sure I get the names right because there were some names. I don't know if you knew this last week. I'm sure you have it in your notes, but at the end of the game last week for the Jags, they had out there a receiver. They had it was Austin Trammell and Tim Jones were out there at receiver. So to get a 4 and a 6, and they already had 13 picks in the draft. So to trade a 4 and a 6 and still have 11 picks, I personally love the trade, Hunter. So, and he said, and by the way, he also said, love the show. So just wanted to throw that in there as well.
Thank you.
So
thank you. I think the trade is fine. Well, I'm curious, like if they extend him and what that kind of looks like. I do think he fits their roster construction really well, for sure. I think it's not that crazy to bet against Parker Washington at this point, who's made some really nice plays, but just has not been reliable. Hasn't always been on the same page with Trevor. And timeout. What's up?
Timeout. I don't know if you know this. BTJ is out. It came up as we were recording that BTJ's out.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. So that is good to know. But yeah, I don't think it's crazy to bet against Parker Washington because those are kind of the same skill sets. It's just Jacoby has incredible hands and Parker Washington's been super inconsistent. And those slot guys, and Jacoby can play a little bit outside too. It's not just taking Parker Washington's job away, but it's going to be a lot of that, I think. But when you're throwing slant on 3rd and 5 or a cross or a dig that's trying to pick up the chains on 3rd downs. You want that to be a reliable target. A drop on 3rd down is way more costly than a drop on 1st down. So I think it's a reasonable trade for sure. But yeah, we got Davis Mills playing in this game for Houston, and it's a huge game for Houston. They really have to win this. If they do, I think they can make things interesting. Getting CJ Stroud, who's very quietly played much better football as of late. I think the offensive line has made strides forward. They're not where they need to be, obviously, but they just need to climb up from being a historically bad offensive line to be able to move the ball. So that'll be a big matchup to watch in this one. Is the Texans offensive line blocking a pretty good Jags D line for an immobile Davis Mills, and just how many points can Houston put up in this one? I think there's pockets in the Jags secondary. I know I didn't check the injury report on this one, to be honest, but I know that the slot corner went down last week. Who's slot corner for the Jags? Yeah.
Jordan Lewis?
Yeah, Jordan Lewis. Is he going in this game? Forgive me for not checking that.
I'm going to be honest. Let's chat. Do we know? I'm Googling now.
I think that's a big one because of how the Texans have been able to use Jalen Noel lately. I remember he had a neck injury, did not practice the last 2 days. So I was on to something there. So if he's out, I think with Jalen Noel and Nico Collins, there's areas that the Texans should be able to get the ball and attack this secondary. So, I think you really only need like 17 to 20 points for the Texans to win this one at home with this pass rush. The Jags offense kind of woke up in the second half last week, but man, you watched earlier in that game for the Jags against the Raiders, it was still a lot of the same. Drop passes, Trevor a little bit off the mark. It's actually crazy how it's the same problems every single week, not getting cleaned up. And against the Texans defense that has been phenomenal this year in Houston in a desperation week, and in a week too where like the defense knows they're going to have to carry this week with the backup quarterback set to go. So I think I am actually going to back Houston here. I just have been so disappointed by the lack of progress from the Jags passing game. No Brian Thomas, a huge deal as well. On top of that, even if you like the Myers trade, it's hard to imagine he's going to step in a pretty damn different offense from what he's been running with the Raiders. It's not in that same Shanahan, tree as far as the actual names for these play calls and what the playbooks look like. He's been around the league forever, so he'll be able to pick it up quickly. But I don't know if 4 days later we're going to get a heavy dose of Jacoby Myers in this one. So I do like Houston, and I almost like them. I mean, the Jags are favored by 1.5 points. I don't hate actually going with the Texans, who I think are just very undervalued right now. I tweeted this out, but their 5 losses still are all 1-score losses against winning teams. I thought they were on their way to beating Denver last week. I really do. I think they had Denver's offense really uncomfortable. CJ Stroud, they had to settle for field goals, but he was moving the ball against the Broncos. And then once Davis Mills came in, that stopped. So I do think the Texans are pretty underrated and can get this one to kind of keep their season alive this week.
So I'm going to be honest. I was pretty much like, hey, like Jacksonville should win this heading in, but BTJ's out. Somebody did comment that Jordan Lewis is likely out. That was Johnny. So shout out Johnny. But this is a game where I wouldn't take either side, if I'm being completely honest, because, you can, like I said, you can convince me either way. But what I will say is there is a gateway for Jacksonville if they win this game, because Jacksonville still plays Indy twice. And if Indy drops one here or there, I mean, Jacksonville's path for them is there. And they play the Chargers next week, who, as we know, don't have Joe Alt or Rashawn Slater. Then they play they play the Cardinals, the Titans. The path for Jacksonville's there. So I want to lean Jacksonville in the worst way. I have to pick a winner, though. I'm going to go with Jacksonville. I'm still going to go with Jacksonville. Right. I don't trust Davis Mills enough. And the Texans' offensive play calling, especially with Nick Caley, it's suspect at best. I don't trust either side enough to legitimately say, especially with the injuries on Jacksonville's side, but I'm going to go with Liam Cohen's Jags.
Fair enough.
Somebody said Devin Lloyd is also back. So that's, Devin Lloyd's,
Yeah,
He's been killing it.
He's having a good year. Is there's a Lions game this week, right? I just got a super chat about the Lions.
Yes, that's next game. Next game.
All right, perfect timing.
There is, you know what? I'm not going to say it. I was going to say something. I'm not going to say. I'll actually get your phone. I'm going to text you and I'll text you what I was going to say.
All right, I'll check it out once you start.
And if you let me know, if I should say this. I'll dive into the game here.
Now I'm excited to see what you got cooking up in that big brain of yours.
Just check your phone.
But before I pass this off to you, and then I'll read it from Azza. With Brad Holmes not making any moves during the trade deadline, do you think they can realistically make a Super Bowl run? Love your guys' content. Yeah, I know Lions fans have been frustrated that Detroit hasn't really been the aggressive, trade deadline team that like the Eagles have been necessarily in the NFC there. But yeah, I definitely do think so. I think maybe if you wanted to secure your interior O-line depth, that would have been nice, but it's hard to do that at the trade deadline. Like there was a lot of talk about going after Zeitler. I don't know if Tennessee wanted to move Kevin Zeitler, but like that maybe would have been a trade I would make. But I think generally speaking, like, no, I wouldn't have traded 2 first-round picks to go get Sauce Gardner if I was Detroit or anything like that. I think you're banking on the corners getting back healthy. They spent money in free agency for DJ Reed. I think that is your trade deadline acquisition, is hoping to get that big free agent signing back. As long as they can patch up the secondary, get healthy on the interior offensive line, they're not maybe the super juggernaut that you would ideally like not have any weaknesses, but they can absolutely still make a Super Bowl run. I have no doubt about that.
I'm with you on that. So for this game, the Lions have not put up more than 24 points since week 5. Always checking the text. The Lions has not put up more than 24 points since week 5. The run game was legitimately shut down last week. There's legitimate concerns right now with John Morton to play calling. For the Commanders, I mean, look, Jaden Daniels last week, obviously for him to be in that game he shouldn't have been in the game. I think if there's anything we can agree on, you're down 31 points in the fourth quarter. I don't think he should have been in the game. Anyway, Marshawn Lattimore also had a season-ending injury. The defensive play calling last week against Sam Darnold and the Seahawks was also, I thought, pretty bad. To not change anything up, Darnold 16 of 16 in the first half, 280 and 4 touchdowns. Terry McLaurin still not expected to play. I'm going to be completely honest, and I live in Maryland. I converse with Commanders, Ravens, Steelers, and the occasional Birds fan regularly when out and about. I hate to pile on the Commanders as much as I have this year, but I mean, the Lions are coming off of a game in which they were near double-digit favorites. I think this is a get-right game for the Lions in every aspect, especially with the Commanders not having their starting quarterback and Terry McLaurin not expected to play. I don't know how they're going to keep up with the Lions. So I think that the Lions cover in this game as well, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I think Detroit wins probably something along the lines of 31-17, somewhere in there. This is a game where the Lions should get back on track.
There hasn't been a more consistent bounce back team. Like when you try to go after a narrative like that, sometimes you get burned by it, right? You and I have both been doing this job long enough to know that. The Lions have basically backed that up. What was it, the Bucs game this year? I did the same thing, and they went out and beat them by double digits.
Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, yeah, Detroit's coming off a loss. They had a sloppy game, frankly, against the Vikes, and they're going to be pissed about it. They're going to go into Washington against one of the worst defenses in the league. And Daniels is for sure out.
Yes.
Because I saw that he's like maybe making this miraculous recovery from that gruesome looking injury. But yeah, I mean, Mariota's had his moments, but we saw what that looked like against the Chiefs, against a legit team trying to keep pace with that. And not to mention Detroit's run defense is like insane, especially on a day where they're ticked off. So I don't see this being a big Bill Merritt, read option day for Mariota or anything like that. I'm with you. I also took Detroit on the spread while you were breaking this one down.
Did you see the text?
I did. I responded. I think that one's up to you. I'm not opposed to it if you want to go there. But
okay, be prepared for the next game. Literally zero comment on anything. The president of the United States is going to be at this game. It was announced that he's a guest that's going to be there. That's literally it. And moving on. I do not care
we'll
about
leave it up to
politics.
people to try to dissect what that could mean for the outcome of the game. All right. Next up, I have another excellent football game here. Cardinals, Seahawks. We got a slate, man. And I know Arizona is not the most exciting team for most people. If you've watched the Cardinals this year, this has been a frisky football team. And we saw them like try to save their season on Monday night. And this is a second opportunity to really get back into the mix. And I'm just curious if they can pull that off. When they played the Seahawks earlier in the year, they started slow, came back late, made it a 3-point game. And then we saw the Jonathan Gannon botch at the end they kicked it in bounds and lost time on the clock and all that. I think that was that game. But anyway, one thing the Cardinals did do really well in that game is they limited Jackson Smith and Jigba in a way that really nobody's done this year. They held him to just 4 catches, 79 yards. And I think there's a reason for that. The Cardinals run the most cover 4 in the NFL, 29%. And with the types of routes that JSN has been having a lot of success on, it's these posts and stretching kind of the deep middle part of the field, and on like slot fades and stuff too, or out and up types of routes. But when you're running quarters coverages, it's pretty easy, schematically speaking, to just bracket that player and just, if he's lined up in the slot, you're going to take your 2 safeties and bracket JSN. If he's lined up outside, you take your outside corner and your closest safety and just try to take away JSN. And shading their coverages towards him had success in the first meeting. And I've continued to be curious if there's a team. Obviously, Dan Quinn and the Commanders weren't able to do it last week. But if there's a team that can actually find a way to take away JSN, because that has been it is. I don't have the words to describe how much volume and weight he has had on his offense compared to like any other individual player around the league. Does that make sense? Like, he is the Seahawks offense. I don't think the run game's been special. They've got some other ancillary playmakers. They get Rashid Shaheed in the mix this week. I really like that as a long-term addition. I don't know how much he's going to be involved. He might get that's something to keep an eye on. If they know the Cardinals are going to shade, bracket JSN, can you scheme up a play where you've got a speed threat like Rashid Shaheed screaming over the top? But overall, I think Arizona's defense, especially getting Walter Nolan in there last week, their first-round pick, looked incredible. There's a route for Arizona, like they did in the first matchup, to slow down the Seahawks in a way that very few people have. So I'm curious to see if they can pull that off. And then Jacoby needs to have that like savvy veteran quarterback performance against the Seahawks defense they're tough to get right now. They're hard to run the ball against. I don't think Arizona's going to have a ton of success on the ground. I just don't. And the way that they the soundness of this Seahawks defense, how well they're coached, how well they communicate, it's impressive, man. It's great coaching. It's great effort and a bunch of smart athletic players working in unison. So it's the Seahawks feel to me a little bit like those like Spurs teams, maybe a little bit of like last year's Thunder team, like in basketball. I know Shai Alexander kind of broke out as a superstar and all that, but you watch some of these like championship basketball teams, and it's like they don't always have like the go-to superstar necessarily. I know it's not an eye-to-eye comparison, but the same idea where it's like, this is just great team football on both sides of the ball. So it's really hard to pick against the Seahawks right now. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. But I do think there's a route for Arizona, who played Seattle tough last time. They played the Packers tough. They played the Colts tough. All their games, as we've been talking about, like, they have been right in it. I think they now have a positive point differential on the year as a 3-5 team. So I think the 6.5 spread is too much in a divisional battle here. I think This is going to look pretty similar to that first game. I got to go Seahawks, but there's a lot to look for here. Oh, by the way, another quick shout out. Garrett Williams came back from injury last week for the Cardinals too. He unlocks a lot of stuff that Jonathan Gannon, a lot of unique scheme buttons that Jonathan Gannon likes to push. They'll take him from the slot and like drop him into cover 2 and kind of confuse you in that sense. That was a big loss when he went down earlier in the year. I think he has an argument for being their best defensive player. And I know it's kind of crazy to say, but he's very underrated. So it was big to get him back last week too. Him and Walter Nolan kind of getting this defense to do what we've been asking them to do and look like what you would hope Jonathan Gannon's defense would look like in year 3. So should be a fun one.
So within this, I had a couple of people comment, Will Johnson, Max Melton, Mac Wilson, all out for Arizona. That's obviously ginormous. I mean, that's 30% of your starters right there. It's also
Max Melton doesn't move me. I just want to
that's
throw
fair. That's fair.
The comment. I've never been a big Max Melton guy, but I hear you.
But so, 3 players out, short week. The whole Jacoby Kyler thing, I'm going to be honest. I'm not surprised the Kyler Murray era in Arizona is over. I'm surprised how fast the era kind of just was like, hey, like he's done. Jacoby's the guy, and we're just going to effectively move on. That surprised me. But I really like the comment that you had about the Seahawks, just kind of a superstarless team. Or I mean, they do have the go-to, but it's just more like we are just collectively a good team. I absolutely love the Mike Macdonald hire when it was made. This was pretty much what I was envisioning when they hired Macdonald. I think Seahawks win this. I think they're going to be 7-2. They are a really good team. They're undoubtedly one of the best teams in the NFL. And I really, really enjoy seeing this team play. And I hope they run a lot more 11 personnel especially with Shaheed now. So to have the trio of JSN, Rashid, and then of course, Torrey Horton. I can't wait to see how this team plays over the course of the second half of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, their upside is insane. Really a fun team to watch.
So SNF, we have Pittsburgh, LA Chargers, and when healthy, this is a really fun matchup. But this is a huge, huge game for the Steelers because the path to 8-3 for the Pittsburgh Steelers is there. I mean, you are in a situation now where credit where it's due. They absolutely, I mean, they handled the Colts last week. They made Daniel Jones uncomfortable all day. Like we said earlier, it was a 1-score game, but it wasn't really a 1-score game. 6 turnovers last week. Obviously, that's not going to be something that's going to happen every single game. But with Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, you have to capitalize on the opportunity while it's there. And the Chargers have 4 tackles. There's 4 tackles to choose from. They're going to be Trevor Penning, Bobby Hart, Trey Pipkins, and Austin Deculus are going to be the guys that they have to choose from for the starting lineup. And that's obviously substantial. Alex Highsmith was the AFC Defensive Player of the Week last week, and he was awesome. And you got to keep it rolling. That's the biggest thing for the Steelers. I didn't think the offense for Pittsburgh was, right home about last week, but they put enough points on the board. They still won the game. And obviously, whenever your defense forces 6 turnovers, you're not going to put up a 400 or 500 yard day offensively. But with the Steelers' schedule, they have at the Chargers, home against the Bengals, and then at the Bears. And then after that, you have Bills and Ravens, and then the Lions and Ravens again in 4 of your final 6 games or whatever, 7 games, whatever. Anyway, you got to capitalize. You have to win this game. There's also a possibility that the Steelers enter this game with the Ravens having lost earlier in the day. If that opportunity is there, you can't let it pass you.
Yeah, I'm kind of worried about the Chargers in this matchup. I think I still have the Chargers over Pittsburgh as like a power ranking team, but this is not how you want to draw it up with all the offensive line injuries, especially with the way Pittsburgh was getting after it up front last week. The Chargers really struggled to run the ball against Tennessee last week. With what we saw from Pittsburgh kind of turning it on. I've been saying it, like it feels like at some point it was going to happen with this defense. There's just so much talent, such a great track record of them playing good defense in Pittsburgh. It's totally what happened last week. The team defense just clicked last week, and it's something that I don't know that just goes away. It's a small sample size. Maybe it was a fluke, but it was against the Colts that they're just an absolute engine. So I'm worried about the Chargers' ability to move the ball in this game. I really am. I know Herbert's been amazing. The receivers have been stepping up, but I think that the Chargers are going to be able to take away the run and get after Herbert, make him uncomfortable. I mean, it's not that they're going to shut the Chargers out. I mean, Herbert's going to get his, but you flip that over to the other side. Like, I think Pittsburgh can get 21, 24 points on this defense. I do. I think they've really learned, I think, who they want to be, and it's a heavy personnel team. It's these quick passes to Washington, and they're slowly remembering that they have Pat Freiermuth out there, which is great to see because he, to me, is so clearly their second best option. I'm curious how quickly they activate Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I think it's a meme of an addition, but it's not. Like, I think that actually could really play a factor for them. Like, he obviously is prone to drop the ball at any given moment, but just last year, like, MVS was legit good on the New Orleans Saints. Like, he can be a piece. So I'm curious to see if he gets activated this quickly. It feels like he is the type that should be able to get in the lineup pretty quick. But yeah, I'm worried about the Chargers' ability to kind of get the Steelers offense off the field in this game and then to sustain drives. So I'm gonna take the Steelers to win this one. I like, well. I like the matchup for Pittsburgh.
Quickly,
and Rodgers on primetime he's got a little bit of something to him right now. I feel like
he lost a couple weeks ago. Unfortunately, I was rooting for him. He lost a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, after launching a 80-yard nuclear missile to take the lead with 2 minutes left.
I do have a quick super chat from Calvin. Appreciate it. He says, "Go Hawks, hoping they get a win on my 21st on Sunday." That's happy early birthday.
Happy birthday.
And then he has also hoping JSN with the number 11 for the 11th month of the year and Kenneth Walker go off for the 9th day. So 11-9. So happy birthday. Happy early birthday.
All right. Happy birthday. Okay. I've got Rams-Niners. Another great game.
Not game of the week, but one of the best games of the week.
Have you been paying close attention to what the Rams are doing the last couple of weeks?
Like, it's really fun. Schematically? Yeah. With Puka? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, the 13 personnel,
right?
Specifically. Oh my God, it's pretty insane. They've completely like invited a whole new, like, I don't know, limb to their person. I don't know. Like, they have a whole different way to beat you right now with this 13 personnel thing. They've been this 11.5 personnel with Puka as the in tight end and all that. That's been their identity for so long. But now it's like, well, yeah, we can do that. Or we can come out with 3 tight ends and Puka, who's going to smash you in the face and force you into base defense. And then you can't stop all these quick play action boots in the run game. They've had success, but then they're able to take Terrence Ferguson, who looks awesome, and have like a vertical shot play aspect off of this. And Puka Nacua is out there in these formations. It is tough to deal with. And I just don't know that the Niners have the personnel to deal with this right now. I think we see something similar from the Rams offense that we've seen for weeks now, where they've been able to just sustain these methodical, just tiring drives. It's been like 3 straight weeks of this. So I pulled the numbers on it. And then, of course, because I'm an idiot, I didn't put them in my notes. But I think the last 2 weeks they've run 35 plays. I think was the number of 13 personnel. That's crazy. You don't see that. That's going. You'd probably have to go back to like the original Greg Roman, like Lamar offense to see that type of heavy personnel usage. So it's the fact that they have that, or they can just come out in 11 personnel with Puka and Devontae Adams and kill you that way. They're getting scary. And I think Mac Jones and this offense is going to be able to have a little bit of success against this style of defense. So I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I really do worry that the Niners are going to have the horses defensively to keep up with what the Rams got going. So I'm gonna take them. It's just really hard to go against that machine right now.
I'm with you, and the Rams right now. I'm eager to see how other NFL coaches kind of steal this philosophy or try to steal this philosophy because of how unique the Rams personnel is. And I did see your tweet earlier about Terrence Ferguson, so that was good to see. Or at least the credit Terrence has. He's been solid.
He looks good, man. Yeah.
And I was looks
like he's bulked up and he's making tough catches. Yeah, he looks really nice.
I was a little worried for the Rams, like, to trade back and then to have that be like your first selection of the 25 draft and like, oh boy, how is this going to go type thing. But This is also kind of a get back game for the Rams. The 49ers, Kyle Shanahan and Mac Jones earlier this year. I mean, it was one of the best like point guard type games I've seen, where it is just like, hey, we are going to drop back, and as soon as our guy hits his spot, boom, the ball is out, ball is out, and that's how you defeat a good pass rush. And I thought the 49ers had one heck of a game plan on that Thursday night earlier in the year, but the 49ers are significantly banged up. I mean, I think Kyle Shanahan should very much be in the coach of the year conversation for all the adversity they've had to go through this year. But I feel like this is we're getting to the point where it's a little too much. I think I'm going to go with the Rams to win this game.
Yeah, I think we see it pretty similarly. All right, there's one more pretty big game. I don't know, Eagles Packers, decent matchup. Can we pour one out for Tucker Kraft real quick?
That was brutal.
Just devastating. Yeah, I do think it's going to be that injury is going to be how Matt LaFleur responds as a play offensive designer and play caller. How he responds to that injury is going to dictate how this game goes. It's going to dictate how the rest of the season goes for Green Bay, because I think there's an obvious negative to look at it. Like, they lost a tight end that allowed them to their fourth in the NFL in 12 personnel this year. They've been in heavy packages. It's been the classic Shanahan thing that LaFleur comes from, the shot plays, the run game. The run game hasn't been great this year, though, out of 12 personnel. Their offensive line's not run blocking all that well. And I do think it'll be interesting to see if Matt LaFleur, who there's a lot of legitimate criticisms for him. I think you especially felt it against the Panthers, where like the conservative nature of his play calling against in games like the Panthers and the Browns, especially, where they kind of coach and play down to worse opponents, where it's first down run, second down screen, Jordan Love go make something happen on third down. There's a lot of frustrations with that, but I think LaFleur also deserves a lot of credit as an offensive mind. And what I'm getting at here is, you now look at the Packers personnel. They have an offensive line that's much better in pass pro than they are as a run blocking team. You have really a bounty of talent at wide receiver, with Dobbs playing well, Watson's back. Hopefully Golden's able to go this week, but you're going to have Jaden Reed coming back. I mean, that's a pretty crazy 1 through 4. You now have your number one tight end is Luke Musgrave, who's an interesting athlete that's actually playing pretty well this year, but he's not much of a blocker. For me, if I'm Matt LaFleur and trying to react to, we just lost the pivot point for our entire offensive scheme in Tucker Kraft, I think you have to, and I know the Jordan Love haters are going to say that's not going to go well, but the only answer for the Packers is you have to put the offense in Jordan Love's hands. You have to spread things out. You have to call actual drop back passing concepts on first and second down. Matt LaFleur, I know it's like asinine to even suggest that, but it's like the Packers haven't even gotten into their drop back game until third down in a lot of these games, and it's infuriating. You have to lean into your $55 million quarterback that, yes, is prone once every 3-4 weeks. He makes a throw where you're like, literally, what are you thinking? Like this week, the viral play is the fourth down heave into the end zone that I actually don't think was that bad.
Right.
Honestly, like he's just trying to make a play. Nobody points out on that play that Romeo Dobbs completely like quit because he had stepped out of bounds in scramble drill. Love's just trying to throw it to his guy. Like, I don't know what else you really want him to do on that play.
It was kind of funny whenever it panned to it, and it was just one Panthers guy just waiting for it. I was like, that was pretty funny. But
it looks horrible, but if you actually contextualize the play, he avoided a sack. The guard gets beat immediately. He had to run around for like 8 seconds. Nobody's open. I see what he was trying to do. If you look at where he released it, he's hoping that Dobbs is going to come back to the ball. Maybe you get one of those like underthrown pass interference type deals, or Dobbs makes a contested catch. Like, I get what he was going for. It just, how it played out is hilarious because Dobbs just stopped moving. Anyway, he made the heave into triple coverage was the one bad play Love really made last week, I think. Just like literally first down, just chucks it into 3 Panthers DBs. It's just like, anyway, he might do that once every 3 or 4 weeks, but he doesn't get enough credit for the down-to-down play. He's been throwing the ball accurately lately. That's what you got to do in this game for the rest of the year. You got to get more Matthew Golden going. Again, I didn't I think he's good to go as far. I think I only saw that Lucas Van Ness and Nate Hobbs are the two guys that might not be able to go for Green Bay in this one. So I think Golden is golden. But like you got to get into a passing script, spread the defense out a little bit, change your identity. It can be done. It reminds me of what the Bengals did with Joe Burrow like two or 3 years ago. It can be done mid-season, but it takes you kind of swallowing your pride and being a good coach. So I'm curious to see if that can happen with Tucker Kraft out. And then I'm really curious to see what the Eagles defense looks like coming off the bye week. Really long week to prepare here, right? For Philadelphia, they have a Monday night game off the bye week in their biggest game of the year.
Yeah.
So that's, kind of an advantage for Philadelphia in this game. But you've got Jair Alexander is on this team now. I don't know if he's going to play in this game. It's kind of a inconspicuous injury that he's dealing with right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if he just magically heals for this game against his former team. They've added Michael Carter as a slot corner who's really struggled for the Jets in the last year and a half. I'm curious if that means Cooper DeJean steps out. How does he play as an outside corner, number one? And number two, how much of a fall off do you get at slot corner? It's fascinating. I'm the last person to question Howie Roseman and Vic Fangio. That is not what I would be doing with this defense. The last thing I would be doing is taking Cooper DeJean out of the slot. So if they do that, I'm curious to see how that goes. But you also added Jalen Phillips and Brandon Graham off the bye week coming out of retirement. So kind of a new look Eagles defense, a lot of potential there. But does the run defense take a step down with DeJean out of the slot? I think they get to live in nickel because Cooper DeJean's as good of a run defender. It's something to keep an eye on here. But the Packers are favored in this game. I disagree. I think Philadelphia is a better team right now, especially we don't know what this is going to look like with Tucker Kraft. I got to pick the Eagles. Obviously, I think the Packers have a chance. I think they're a very talented team. I think they play up to their competition and down to their competition at the same time. So probably not going to be betting this one, but I do think the Eagles are a better team and should be able to edge them out as this game goes on.
Yeah, so I'm with you. I mean, Tucker Kraft being out it's a top 5 player in this roster that of all players you would not want to go down. He's undoubtedly in the top 5. I mean, it's Jordan, it's Micah, it's the list isn't far after those two players. But within this, the Birds, like you said, they're coming off the bye. Pass rush is king. And for the Birds they're starting to get back, Jalen. I mean, they of course traded for Jalen Phillips, but now you're going to have Jalen Phillips and Nolan Smith will eventually come back. He was, the practice window was that was opened, but for Jalen Phillips, Jalix Hunt, Jalen Carter, you're really starting to see, what the vision for this team is. I absolutely love the Jalen Phillips trade because probably at worst, they're going to get a 4th round comp. They might even get a 3rd round comp out of the trade. But the biggest thing with the Birds is I think they're going to be able to run the football. And we saw that last week with Carolina. I know the Birds have struggled at times. And I know Saquon's, I don't really like the always having a down year after a 2,000-yard year because you're not going to have back-to-back 2,000-yard year. Like, I don't really like that. Did Tom Brady have a down year after, or probably a better one's Peyton Manning because Brady unfortunately tore his ACL in 2008. But did Manning have a down year in 2014? Anyway, my point is I like the Birds a lot in this game. I'm really surprised with the Packers coming off a loss to the Panthers, with the Birds coming off a bye and improving the roster on top of it, that the Packers are favored in this one. This is one I don't understand the spread. There's a couple of spreads every year and even over-unders like we mentioned with the Bills and Dolphins where I don't understand what the process is from Vegas within this. Maybe they know something I don't know, but I think it's going to be one where the Birds hit them low, hit them high, and we're going to watch the Eagles fly. So I can't wait to see this game. It's going to be one of the best games of the week, and I think it's going to be all midnight green on Monday night.
All right. I hope you're wrong. I hope we're both
wrong.
Well,
that will wrap up the Week 10 preview. If you are watching either Marcus or I stream, please like the stream. It helps with the almighty YouTube algorithm tremendously. And I cannot thank you guys enough for the support. So as always, until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.